Good morning once again from Al Basha, number 2 in United Arab Emirates, Cuthbert Cooks. Yesterday we talked about a little bit of butchery and food waste. I want to sort of pick up on that as well, but today we're going to do some braising, and then we're going to also do a dry rub of some short ribs. So what I thought we'd do first though is just talk a little bit about braising, you know, one of the basic techniques of cookery, yeah? And when my lecturer Bernd Uber back in Box Hill TAFE in Melbourne, Australia, taught us as first year apprentices way back in the early 80s what we should be doing and how we should be doing. One of the very important lessons we learned was the principles of cookery. So braising, the subjection of food to the action of heat while partially submerged in a liquid in a sealed container. If you know how to do the basics to begin with, then it's quite straightforward, yeah, because then you can apply the basics to all the other things, yeah. We also said about food waste that we didn't want to waste the food as well. So here's a lovely bit of short rib, yeah. Now you can trim this a little bit if you want. If you really want to, you can trim it. But what I'm just going to cut him in half, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bones here. Lovely bit of meat on the top. I'm going to leave the fat on because I want that there. And then one of the things with braising, have a great knife. This knife I bought as when I was an apprentice, so I've still got it. So I look after my knives. Yeah, beautiful sharp knife. People say, what is the best knife to use, or the best knife you can buy? Just buy a sharp one and keep it sharp and look after it. Beautiful bit of meat on this short rib. And all I'm going to do is seal them a little bit. We're going to make a bit of mirepoix. We're going to add a little bit of ready-made stock, and then we're going to look at, and then we're going to leave that to marinate, and then we're going to pop him into the oven, and we're going to slow roast him for about 2.5 to 3 hours at about 160 degrees C. So a nice, slow, gentle, even braising. And basically, when we come back in 3 or 4 hours' time, we just want to be able to touch the bone and just pull the bones out of the meat. So with the discussion around food waste yesterday, I mentioned something. I said artificial intelligence, yeah, and it was artificial, yeah. I think what I meant by that was that it can be useful to help you, but it won't teach you about food waste, yeah. Artificial intelligence will spit out a nice little. We're just going to pop this in a nice heavy pan here that we've got nicely done. We're going to seal this off. Yeah, we're going to seal him off nicely, and then we're going to have, just to get a little bit of browning going on, we want to make sure that we have the colour there as we're going to enclose the item. We're going to enclose our short ribs in a little bit of stock, so we want to get a little bit of colour on him, get the meat caramelising as well. I mean, this is a classic technique where you do braising and you actually look at sealing in the juices. That's the whole point of doing the braising technique and the sealing off. So what you want to do is to make sure that you have a nice colour on your meat, and then we're going to pop him into a roasting dish. We're going to pop a little bit of mirepoix in, and off we go. So back to the artificial intelligence and what that can do for food waste. Yes, it can give you a pie chart, it can give you a graph, it can tell you, you know, your, how do you call it? What do you say? You know, artificial intelligence can give you that information of trends. Yeah, so on a Monday after the buffet, we get X amount of food waste going into the rubbish bin. But the core question is, why is it going into the rubbish bin at the beginning? Especially if things are coming back from the buffet. Yeah. There could be various reasons, you know. Is the food coming back on the guest plate? If the food's coming back on the guest plate, does that mean the guest is not eating all the food? Obviously, yeah. But why aren't they eating the food? What's the core responsibility? What's the core reason that the people aren't eating the food? Is it no good? Of course it's good, because you cooked it. You're great cooks, yeah. Or they're just taking too much, yeah. And also in the mise en place, as we spoke about in the episode before, what are you doing to mise en place, and are you making too much? So there's all these elements that you as a cook have to understand. And your chef de partie and your executive sous chef and your executive chef need to be able to teach you that as young cooks as well. I'm just going to flip this over now because he's sounding good. Cameraman Code is here again today, so he's looking after us. Nice little bit of browning coming on there. Nice caramelization of the little bit of fat that I left on top of the on top of my short rib. So I'm just going to let that sit there. So you've got to look at the core reason for food waste. You know, why have we got food waste, right? Why is all this food going to waste, and what are we going to do about it? Yeah. So we need to be able to think of ways to reduce. Yeah. If you want to do trends, yeah, and if you want to look at your data, then that's fine. Yeah. But back to the root cause, and the root cause can be many things. Yeah, as we spoke about yesterday. Also, young cooks, basic techniques. Yeah, it's simple. Yeah, keep it simple. I'm going to have to turn my little fan on here a bit because we're getting a bit too smoky in the kitchen here in our basha. So I'm going to pop this out now. He's looking great. Sorry to give you my back. There's our first bit of short rib, just nicely caramelized on top. Get the second one, pop him in the pan, same juices. There we go. I'll just pop over here, pop my board away into the stewarding. I'm going to wash my hands, keep my hands sanitized as well. So I've got my little pump actions here. I hope Cody's not falling asleep on the camera there, are you, mate? You're okay? And then we've got to keep our hands clean. And now we're going to prepare our little bit of mirepoix. Yeah, different colour chopping board, of course. Red for raw meat out here in Dubai, as per the Dubai Municipality food safety guys. So we have our little green board for our veg. So I've got here a very simple mirepoix. Yeah, we've got a carrot, bit of celery, got a little red onion. Some people leave the skin on. I've taken the skin off. A little bit of garlic. Yeah. And the reason I've got this much garlic, and I'm not going to peel it, is because I like the garlic to be able to have that as a little accoutrement afterwards. So I want to just sort of break the garlic a little bit. Do that. Do that. So we break that down. Again, mirepoix, just the basics of mirepoix is a little bit of veg and a little bit of carrot and celery, onion. And then you can get your crushed garlic. Chop him up a little bit. Just very simple. Very simple. Carrot. Just chop him up like that. So then we chop up our carrot. We just had a little bit of a disruption there in the kitchen. That's why we faded in and out. Our celery. We can add a little black peppercorn. We can also add a little bit of herbs if you want as well to get the flavour going. We're going to turn over our other piece there. He's looking great. People say you seal the meat to keep the juices in. Nico Landini is a famous chef back in the 80s in London. He used to say in his book, Nico on One, I think his restaurant was called, up in London, and he said that, I don't know why we seal meat before we braise it. Someone says it keeps the juices in. Has anyone been in the pot with the meat to see if the juices stay in or come out? But anyway, it's tradition, so that's why we do it. But it helps to caramelize and give colour to the meat as well, which also helps the colour of your stock at the end as well. Your braising liquid. Now you can either put your mirepoix in raw like this, or you can saute him off a little bit just to get him a little bit of colour. So I'm going to pop now the other piece of beef short rib into the pan. I'm going to give my mirepoix a little toss around in the frying pan. The mirepoix gives us a nice little bit of extra flavour. So this is nearly done. What we're going to do as well, we're going to fill him up, just barely cover, halfway cover the meat, so he's not boiling, so it's braising, yeah. And then we're going to slow roast until it's completely cooked, and then with the mirepoix, It's going to give us a little bit of extra flavour. Just colour that off a little bit. Into the magic spice container. We're going to put a little bit of thyme in here as well. Now we don't want to burn the thyme, so we put it in last. Now I've got a lovely little bit of stock here. We've got a lovely little stock that's ready. We're going to pop that in as well to give that a little bit of a mix around to get that going. Turn that off. We could add, if we wanted to, a little bit of grape juice to this one, but as we're in the United Arab Emirates and it's during Ramadan, we're not going to use any more grape juice. So I'm just going to pour this over over our pieces of short rib. We're going to pop our mirepoix underneath, just to make sure that some of the flavours get into our lovely piece of Australian short rib. We have a fantastic oven ready to pop this into as well. And then we're just going to use the rest of the stock here. Now, as I touched on yesterday, if you remember, I said that we could use the trimmings of our tenderloin. So I cooked off a nice little beef hongroise yesterday, which is a little beef fillet dish with some paprika in it. So now I'm just going to pour this in. Just halfway up. There we go. And that's going to be our liquid. That's going to reduce right down as we cook it, because we're going to cook it for so long. We're going to really put that jus is going to cover. We're going to add a little bit of flake salt because it's unseasoned. The jus I'm using is unseasoned. And that's ready to go into the oven. Now the next thing we have to do though is just that we just make sure that we cover him up with a bit of aluminium foil, seal him up nicely, and then we're going to pop it in the oven. It's going to take a good couple of hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, just slowly braising away. And then we can, once she's all cooked, we will then bring it out, strain off the juice, and then we'll wrap up we'll just press lightly the braised short ribs. We'll remove the bones, and then we'll either make a little bit of soft polenta, or a little bit of mashed potato, or a little risotto to eat our braised short ribs with. So that's that one. All done. Thank you. Let's see how that cooks out, and we'll have a look at that in a couple of hours' time.